that in a couple of minutes if you like. Now, you were asking me about
the cottonburr.
Cottonburr compost.
Besides it stinks.
The thing that makes good compost, really good compost, is not just the physical material that's there, but the life that's in the compost. Bacterial and fungal. Different bacteria and fungi break down different substances. The bacteria that break down cotton burrs and turn them into compost are different than the bacteria that break down animal manure and turn it into a compost, are different than the bacteria that break down alfalfa and turn it into a compost. When you have what I call a single source compost, like cotton burr compost basically has nothing but cotton burrs, mushroom compost has nothing but the material they grow the mushrooms in, just a straight, say, chicken manure compost has nothing but chicken manure in it. Those are not bad products, but you're very limited in the type of microbial life that you have in there. When you have a blended product, when you have somebody that's put 20 different things together in the compost pile, you're going to have naturally much greater diversity of life than what you would have in a pile of cotton burrs. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And so the mixture comes out in a commercial. Is that Ladybug we're talking about?
Again, Ladybug, if you're buying it in bags, I think is the best compost out there.
Okay.
It combines good bacterial materials from several sources and good fungal materials from several sources. If you're going to buy it by the truckload, I think New Earth makes the best compost out there. And even though they don't want to admit it, Fertile Garden Supply incorporates a lot of New Earth compost in their mixes. Ladybug up in Austin, they take a lot of the New Earth compost and incorporate it in making theirs. Now, I will tell you that New Earth makes two kinds of compost. They make a biosolids compost like Gardenville does, basically a sewage sludge compost, which I do not like and I don't care for. I don't trust Gardenville anymore. And they put the sewage sludge in so many of their products that I choose not to use Gardenville compost. I like the New Earth, but New Earth has one kind of compost that they call manure compost, then they have their biosolids compost. The only thing I'll ever buy is their manure compost, which I think if you're going to buy it by the truckload, I think theirs is the best quality out there.
Are they the same people as Letco?
Used to be.
Okay.
Used to be Living Earth Technologies, but we don't have Letco in this area anymore. They're up in Dallas primarily. Yes, sir.
Since they use chicken manure in compost, you mentioned one time in one of the seminars that some of the chicken raisers feed the chickens arsenic. Does that come out in the compost?
Yes, it is in the compost. So you want to know where you're getting your chicken poop. There is one big company that does not give their chickens, Roxazone is the product name, but it's just arsenic is all it is. And I believe it's Cargill is the company that does not use the Roxazone. The Medina fertilizer, or our Landscape Essentials fertilizer, the Growing Green, that is basically chicken compost. But they get it from the one company that doesn't put the arsenic in the chicken feed. That's the only reason we buy it.
So we're eating that too when we eat the chicken.
Oh yeah, you eat anything other than organic chicken, you're consuming plenty of arsenic. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And turkeys too. Listen to Bruce Dooley this afternoon. If you want to just scare the hell out of you, listen to what the research that Bruce has done and things. And it's just, you know, I hate to be political, though I can't help it sometimes. Follow the money. There is so much money going under the table to allow places like the big chicken farmers to put a dangerous material in their feed.
And that's for what purpose?
They grow the chickens crammed so close together that under normal circumstances they peck themselves to death, and the arsenic simply sedates them to the point that they don't peck each other. That's why they put the arsenic in their feed. But you know, and that's
the Food and Drug Administration.
It's government, it's money. They can care less. If they make enough money out of it, they'd have arsenic in your drinking water. They allow Scots to make their weed and feed fertilizer. Their report came out 2 weeks ago, linked the atrazine in weed and feed to a type of birth defect where the baby's organs develop outside of its body and consequently doesn't survive, tied very directly to atrazine. too much money in it. Government's not going to ban it until enough people stand up and say, do something about this. The
Isn't that
2,4-D
truth
products.
about Organic. When
What's
they- Now that they're saying certain things are organic, and it's not really because the FDA.
No,
approved.
USDA has totally bastardized the Organic Standards Program. Oregon Tilth, which is an organization in the Northwest, they're still pretty strict and they're still pretty good. But if anything comes along to protect you and me, I can almost promise you that the past several administrations and the Obama administration is just as bad as the rest to be sure that it doesn't happen. You know, there was a movement to force people to put where the fish came from or where the meat came from, or, you know, the country of origin labeling is what it was called. Man, they squashed that in a hurry. You know, they couldn't do anything against their buddies that gave them all their campaign money, so we don't have country of origin labeling anymore. And so, anyway, don't get me started on politics. Yes.
Gardenville says they sell a compost that is with the biosolids and one without. Is that true?
I would like to believe it, but I'm not sure anymore. I've gotten so discouraged with that company, Texas Disposal Systems. When Malcolm ran it, it was an A1 operation, but I just choose to use other products these days. Okay, let's get back to roses. Fun things about growing roses. You can find virtually any size of rose that you want, and it's important to know how big they are going to grow. I could not quote you every one of the probably 1,000 different kinds of roses out there, but in general, we have roses that stay fairly small statured, and by that I mean they're going to be less than about 3 feet by 3 feet. That's what I would call a small statured rose. Now, in good enough soil, even the smaller roses are going to get bigger. And in poor soil, even the bigger roses aren't going to get as big as they might otherwise. But you're looking at varieties. If you want a red rose, Martha Gonzalez is a beautiful small rose. It stays on a fairly small plant. You can go down the list pretty much and pick a color, and you can find a rose that's going to stay down near that really fairly small size. The medium-sized roses, which are by far the great bulk of the roses out there, are going to grow approximately 5 feet high and 5 feet wide. Probably 80% of the roses that you're going to see out there are going to fall into that size range, including all the new knockouts that are out there.
And why don't they smell a pretty fragrance?
Because the emphasis has been put on color and not as much emphasis on fragrance. It's kind of like tomatoes. When they breed tomatoes, they breed them for how long they keep and how well they ship. They don't pay any attention to flavor. That's why the stuff from the grocery store tastes like cardboard. And it's the same thing with roses. Most of the newer roses were bred either for their profusion of bloom or for their color. I've never seen roses that bloomed as a general group as profusely as the Knockout series does. But that's all they're looking at, is how many flowers they get and how long a season they bloom over. I like the red knockouts, I like the pink knockouts, I like the double knockouts. Some of the newer varieties, the blush knockout and the rainbow knockout, I just think they should call them the faded knockout. That's what they look like to me, but obviously a lot of people like them or they wouldn't be selling them. But I mean, if I want a red rose, I want a rose that's red. There is a rose out there called Dame de Cour, and nobody in this room has a red shirt on as red as that rose is. I mean, it is the most vibrant, deep red you have ever seen. And anyway, I look for, a color that really does stand out. Fragrance, you almost have to know the individual varieties, and if in doubt, just go stick your nose down in them. Something like the Belinda's Dream that we were talking about, that is a very fragrant rose. The Julia Child that I was telling you about on the yellow roses, Julia Child has a nice fragrance under most conditions. And by the way, with organic fertilizers, your roses will very definitely have a better fragrance than they will if you're using chemical fertilizers on them. It seems to enhance the aromatic qualities of them. But it's almost going to be on a variety by variety basis. A lot of people that study such things know that some varieties of roses produce, the seed pod right behind the rose. It's referred to as a rose hip. And in some of those, the rose hips get so colorful, they're almost as pretty as the flower.